Hello, RogueBeastWarrior here. I hope you're doing well. This has been a problem that I have been working on for a good chunk of my life. I'm sipping on good vibes, by the way. I'm sipping on my coffee, right? My carnivore coffee with my collagen peptides. I probably take about 60 or 80 grams of collagen peptides, and I stay up on creatine. I do about 7,000 milligrams of creatine. But I'm going to tell you, doing this TMG, trimethylglycine, and mainly ginseng, Tongkat Ali. But those aren't the things that drive your metabolism. Those aren't the staples. And not too long ago, I remember getting a chuckle out of somebody that I was watching that is like one of these carnivore dad bod sort of channels. And he said, with such exuberance, I cracked the code. And I got a chuckle because that's how I felt during my entire training career. Training people was, I got leaner. I took the back door to fitness, as I say here, and I cracked the code. And then as I started to use the risk measurement and understand Michelangelo's golden mean, the 5 formulation, and how to perfect that and match that with an insulin sensitive based diet nutrition plan, which is basically you just separate all fats and carbohydrates. Now that can get a little tricky, right? With oils and vegetables and things like this. But very recently, I came to a place where I realized, again, that I cracked the code. And I guess for me, cracking the code as a guy in his 50s now is to take the simplest road to get the leanest possible and to have a limitless ability in where I can take that as far as leanness, as far as fitness, as far as energy and exuberance, and without brain fog. And I had finally realized the other day, just in the last few days, boom, the light bulb went off. It wasn't some rickety Edison light bulb from times of yore. It's in Technicolor. That is, you use the carnivore as the back door to your weight loss goals. And when you go back on the carnivore, and the carnivore, what is it? Beef, 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 and water. Beef and water. And then the second item, and I put that down below on the community posts, and I'm very descriptive on that. It will cost you nothing. You don't have to pay me anything. I'll even be putting up what I'm doing for particular body parts, muscle groups, as I go in and fully striate them. And I've got the system down. Like I say, I haven't sweated once. And it's hard for me to say that, hard for me to even believe, but I haven't sweated once. And I'm now getting leaner than I've ever been. I've held every notable certification. There's a couple that I didn't, but every notable certification that's out there, from NASM to ACE to AFA, NESTA, multiple certifications from each grouping, each affiliated school, each certifying body, and years of getting good at taking these certification tests, understanding the information, and then integrating the information for clients and myself, first using myself as a guinea pig. And once you get down to a certain body weight, and you start to notice that carnivore causes you to hold fat in pocketed areas a little bit different because you're never getting low in available fat, and fat stores as fat as adipose tissue the easiest. So your body just retains it in certain areas. So the shape that you're able to get in, literally the shape, the morphological shape that you're able to get in when you're doing carnivore is vastly different than something like the Pritikin diet, where it's just carbohydrate focused, which is great for athletes, but you really have to be training at a certain level. And I'm getting to the point where I've always been a huge advocate of the orthomolecular sciences. And as you know, watching this channel, Billy J. Sele is a big hero of mine. And I really think that following that prescriptive plan with amino acids is the way to go. And the beauty is you don't have to get so intricate as to buy each and every individual amino acid. You really just have to listen to your body and whether or not you need to rest. In other words, simply by me taking in more collagen protein, even when I'm doing the whey protein, it's going to have a less anabolic attribution just through my behavior and just through the alchemical process of the constituents that are available. And even more so when I'm taking in all necessary base vitamin and mineral supplements to create these synergists, my body can go through its own healing process. So, that's one of the really tricky things about the supplement industry. I mean, we live in such a price-driven, supply chain, capitalistic society that if you're at all ignorant or you just don't know, you've got that sucker written on the top of your head. But I give you the practical way, the practical solution, and the cheapest possible way. And I am still doing this on state benefits. I'm still on EBT. Yeah, I am. I'm doing this all on state benefits. Admittedly so. I should never have gotten in this position, but I was put in this position, as a lot of people are, just by being exposed to and brushing up against malignant narcissists that will leave you for dead, and take your money and the clothes off your back. I digress. Enough said on that. Let's stay positive. But I am the guy who's rooting for you. I'm the one who understands where you're coming from, and I'm giving you the formula. And I would say, from a moralistic standpoint, the toughest thing when you love animals and you love life and you don't understand why things are happening the way they are right now, we are going to have to still turn toward animal products and animal byproducts, meat. And you need to make yourself strong enough so that you can change that. You need to fuel yourself so you can change that. And I don't think we're even going to have to wait a decade until somebody comes out. Could be just in the next few years with an amazing new ability to synthetically create. And this probably gets into a lot of the cell experiments, growing lab meat, which sounds crazy and scary to people, but it is a great alternative because we do need to eat living foods. The protein structures, they need to be organic and fresh. We need to get all the inorganic properties in as well. And it should be superior to meat. It should meet our standards, just like when I would eat pork back in the day. It was the best meat that I could take in, the best fat that I could take in. It would assimilate the fastest and allow me to stay lean, fuel me. And, I would often do pork and wouldn't even have to do any sort of carbohydrate load to pump my muscles up. And I walked away scratching my head. This is way before carnivore. And I was doing this on and off with kind of a guilty conscience, not just for the animal byproduct and the meat, but from a standpoint of almost like, well, I had this down where I carb load at a certain time and then I deplete. And I think how much leaner I could have gotten without all that struggle and starvation. But when you do bring about starvation, all you're effectively doing is going into gluconeogenesis. And that's what this channel is all about. It's about flitting in and out of different ketosis, gluconeogenesis, going into supercompensation. And then finally, there's a whole other area. Last night I had hit the wall. And when I say I hit the wall, I don't push myself to the point that I used to way back in the day where, and notice my videos are all given to you, brought to you when I am like, when I do my flex videos and I'm just showing my fitness, I just did sets. When I come to you on videos like this, I'm walking. And if I do a 20-minute video, I've walked a mile plus just as I'm talking here. So I'm a big advocate of utilizing your time, but also letting the viewer know that respect should be given where respect is due, right? Is the fact that I'm taking even more of my time and my energy burned through the calories that I have to sacrifice myself for, right? Just like you do in listening. So in other words, let's take it seriously and not waste our time. Let's really focus in on some of the main features and the main components to this. And so breaking it down for you, I try to make things as simple as possible with the carnivore. And then slowly, I had a lot of problems doing this, easing this concept in with certain clients that I had. And I didn't even suggest this to other clients because there really wasn't this type of training wheel. I'm going to call it that. It's a perfect descriptor. Training wheel method, which the carnivore offers. So you can stay on the carnivore and get great results. Go through your nice, easy walks as you're losing weight, as you're getting lighter. You're able to walk further, get yourself a great pair of shoes. Typically, I would be using like toe shoes. I used to use the Vibram shoes. I couldn't run in anything else. I'm going to be getting a pair, but I'm going to get a knockoff pair. Can't remember the name. It's orange something. It's a strange name, but it's on Amazon. I'll try to put a link up on that when I find them before I purchase them, because I do plan on running and I'm going to need to get a pair of those toe shoes in order to do that. And I'm ready. Like I could go run right now. I haven't done any running for quite a while, but now that I'm walking 10, 12, 15 miles with ease, pretty regularly, well, very regularly. I'm closing in on my 1,300th mile in the past 5 months, or a little over, what would it be? Almost, yeah, 600 miles just this year. In fact, today I will be closing in on, and right this second, it's 1,300 miles actually, right this minute. Right this minute, like right this moment, it's 1,300 miles. If you look down, I posted that up the other day. Not making it up. You're not going to hear lies here on this station. So, and I'm closing in on 600 miles in the next few miles, probably the next 5 miles, 5 to 8 miles for the year. And doing the protein fasts was always a tough thing because I realized how tough it was for me to get on the protein and to come right back off of it. And I'm just working on my protein, which I always suggest pre-making. I have a 6-to-2 ratio of whey protein, very high quality whey protein. I will take a chug out of that. I make it nice and thick so that I have a nice flavor. Shake it up a little bit, keep it. And then in here, that's my animal protein from the beef. We got the eggs, we got the cheese, and then we got the butter, right? The rest of that, we got all our, let's turn all those around. Yeah. We got our mayonnaise. Right. We got all the things, all the accoutrements necessary. And this is how I did it, and this is how I do it. Unfortunately, Crystal Light has been a part of my life. And I do plan on, that's probably the worst thing that I could ever do. Like, it's one thing to sacrifice the quality in what you do. You know, it'd be nice to have grass-fed, organic, but you going beyond state benefits using EBT, I have to digress to a lower status, a lower state of affordability. And even though you can buy those things on state benefits, when you get to the end of the month, you always run short. And so the one thing that I typically would run short on is being able to get that last week of fresh water. And I just keep that water just laying around everywhere. I get water paranoia, you know? So if I wanted to go off of the whey protein fasting, which I did for 3 days, and then last night I decided I'm going to go off of it. I will extend the timeout to as late as I possibly can. So when you get into being too fickle and thinking about things too much, overthinking it, I never worried about whether I was doing something in the AM or the PM. Now, when I've worked 17 plus hours at a time, working with a client list of over 65 clients, it was easier in a sense to do the protein fasting because then I didn't have to eat, never had to take a lunch break. I could go back-to-back sessions, like 15 hours in a row, and I would just sip on the protein, right? I would make another protein shake, and I would chug the water, use the restroom, and the only difference is that I'm working myself out right now as opposed to training my clients. So I'm in a state where now being very lean and light and having all the nutrients that I require. And there's something that happens when you are, you know, preparation meets opportunity, right? You ever heard that one? Where when you are preparing, when you are doing something great, you know, when you're getting in that bracket, in that area where you're doing something that's exemplary, above and beyond, there's something that's aware of that. There's a consciousness, there's a genius that's aware of that, right? And you end up getting boons. So I'd gotten paid some Uber money that I didn't expect. It just randomly came. And I was able to pay my phone bill and I was able to get some supplements. So that's how we got the supplements. Then I needed another supplement, and I realized I'm going to appeal to Nexo because Nexo doesn't take US clients anymore. And I still had like 20 or 30 bucks in there. And then the crypto market went crazy and that became $40, $45. So I was able to swap out. They allowed me, they were good people. They allowed me to swap out the ETH for some Doge and then do a free transfer. So suddenly I got 45, 50 bucks. And then I realized now that I have money in crypto.com, even though I don't have my card, I never did get my crypto card, and I never activated it. You can still shop online at Walmart and Amazon right through crypto.com. And that's what I'll be doing when I move outside the States, when I move away from the US, which will be hopefully really soon. And so I was able to get a few more supplements. And then I was blessed by, strangely, the delivery went to the wrong address. I put through my complaint because I'm like, look, and it really did put me behind. And they sent me the pictures, and I'm like, that's not the front of the house. That's obviously the wrong address. So they sent me a full refund. I turned around and pretty much bought the same exact items. I upgraded one, and then I found one that was on sale. That's this. I upgraded the tongue cut. So I'd gotten it like a $10 one. That ended up coming for free the next day because that order that had gotten lost came back to me. I ended up upgrading to this one that's more of a complex, right? And then I was able to get this because Amazon was blessing me also and gave me like $17. And that day, the Thomas Delure video came out about TMG, and I'm like, I'm going to try that. And it's been pretty phenomenal ever since. And then this one, I purchased for $30 using state benefits. And this one, I ended up getting for free because it was included in my first order. So we got blessed. Nobody, I wasn't tapping into anyone's insurance money, I don't think, and not stealing from anyone. And nobody, there was no reason or sense of returning anything. So suddenly, and I also got 2 of these. I tucked the other one away. And that was the clincher for me, where I realized I have no excuses. I don't want excuses. I'm doing everything that I can. So preparation meets opportunity meets divine blessings, right? However you want to term it. Because I tend to think that things are much more technological these days than, I even though I think that there's a spiritual quality to things, I think that we use the term spiritualism for a lack of a better understanding of what type of technology we are. Like, it's okay if we are technology. That's okay. It doesn't mean we're any less real, right? And that's really the essence of what we're talking about. We're talking about microbiology, but the fact that I used to use the analogy, a sun doesn't realize or count the number of meters or kelvins, that its solar flares are giving off. It's just shining in brilliance, and that's what all you're supposed to do. So in other words, you don't have to over scientifically assess. You just need to make sure that all those constituents are there, and your body will heal itself. And that is the beauty to orthomolecular nutrition. But what I had found is that none of these things that are postulating become marked or evidential until you fast, until you do a protein fast. And then all of a sudden, all these claims that you heard over the years begin to manifest in a very profound way. Very profound. My earphones have died off here. So we're going to charge those up while we walk. And that's the whole thing. I'm charging. I keep this on me. I think ahead of time. I'm not over planning, but I'm not under planning. I have everything that I need. And that's the beauty of doing indoor walking, okay? Is the fact that how much I value being close to the water and being able to flavor the water if I need to. How much I value being able to run to the restroom if my stomach hurts, right? From the shifts and changes with my metabolic functioning, right? i.e. going from carnivore to fasting last night, TMI, right? Had some great bowel movements. And it allows you to plan that out in the sense of, that once that 100 grams of fat is hitting your system, oh yeah, it's happening. So you can really plan that out. So slowly, I really do recommend to people venturing in to this orthomolecular nutrition and healing plan but taking baby steps along the way. Just try it for a day and see if you can get through the day. So I showed you, I will pre-make the protein, and I'm focusing very heavily on collagen protein at the moment, but collagen isn't going to give you all of the amino acids, the essential, non-essential, all these amino acids that you see with these high quality supplements, right? Where you have the protein blend, whey protein isolate, whey protein concentrate, whey protein hydrolysate. That's not hydrolyzed protein, by the way, and I did break that down in a prior video. And I used to dabble with that, where I would do casein proteins for a prolonged protein. Basically, if you were to eat cottage cheese, you're halfway home. I mean, it's really more of a food grade or a food constituent. Everything's going to be a little bit slower in the processing. And so if you're going to work all day and you don't want to be hungry, but I would still suggest, if you are going that in depth with it, that you do like a hydrolyzed, maybe after work when you're walking or when you're working out, keeping that protein on you if you're doing a fast. Right in the morning, starting out with a good isolate and your collagen. Like what I'm sipping on here is my collagen coffee. I'll have at least 2 cups of that and 1 cup of tea with full scoops of this collagen protein. And yeah, there's better collagen 1, collagen 3, but you'll really get used to it. It has a great flavor to it as well. Some things that I'll add in from older videos that I might not even have up right now public is I'll do chlorophyll. I love chlorophyll. I love the copper. I love taking copper supplementation in. That's the #1 thing with gray hair and so forth. You're not going to see any of these claims come into full play, even though you'll hear about it. You'll take these supplements. You'll take the taurine at different times, 309. You'll hear about it. You'll read about it, and you'll go buy the supplement to help something, you know, some ailment that you may have, or some paranoia that we might have, and you won't see anything. You'll take it for a month and you'll be like, this is a waste of money. I'm just going back to food. Once you start to do this protein fasting, you are putting yourself in the alchemical environmental solution of going into orthomolecular nutrition. Your body will already be doing it. You don't have to go that extra distance. And if you were to do that, amino acids compete with one another. It's just like when I described this octave tone of harmonics. Once you take in a small, like 500 milligrams more of one specific amino acid over the other, and that is the manual and the rule book to how you approach Billy J. Saley's Heal with Amino Acids and Nutrients, those micronutrients, right? So you just need to make sure that everything's there. A good high quality multivitamin, a good high quality trace mineral supplement. The creatine is something that I was on the fence with for many, many years. I personally think it's one of those issues where it doesn't have the same anti-aging combative procedural processing in your body when you're taking carbohydrates in. I think that carbohydrates can really mess up your joint mobility. You know, like even in reference to taking things like chondroitin and other postulations of supplementation that can help one specific area out. I don't think that even comes into play until we remove the carbohydrates and the focus on glycogen loading from the equation. We have to allow those amino acids to go to work, and even more so, like a piano, we have to allow our body to autonomously just be able to go through that and collectively figure out what needs to happen first, what kind of tissue repair needs to take place first. And I don't give it any extra thought. I know that collagen is going to help me with fascia. I know that collagen protein is going to help me with hair growth, nails, skin. I know it's going to help me with my overall vitality. And I know that walking isn't going to become this anabolic movement, that it's going to aid in my blood flow, right? That it's going to, even when I'm really tired, it's going to allow me still to exercise and oxygenate and oxidize, right? Burn fat. So that's why I will walk 5 hours a day. I really do. Even when I walk slower and I'm taking care of things. So I'm thinking about on another whole nother level. I'm thinking about getting an S24 Samsung Ultra and buying into the DeX universe. I don't know if I'm a little premature, but these DeX, if you haven't seen the DeX system, you can literally use your phone, your high functioning, high processing phone, like a Samsung Ultra 24, S24, as your computer. So I've really had a great experience with the Samsung line in the past. And so I'm going to be upgrading this phone to a Samsung in the coming weeks. I've already talked about that, but I've been looking for a really good computer to do edits on and things like that. And I'm starting to think, wow, if I could integrate this whole DeX system. So I'm really eagerly looking for the laptop that isn't like, it's kind of like a Chromebook, but they do a wireless cast directly from your Samsung S24 Ultra, all the way from the A8, I think, all the way up to the S24 Ultra. So you're able to use your cell phone as a computer. Isn't that awesome? So I want to find the best editing and software match that I can get there. So that's kind of like what I'm looking at now. Because as you know, you could spend a lot or you could spend a little. And those phones in themselves are very expensive. So back to cracking the code. Instead of doing any carbohydrate load last night, I ate 5 hamburger patties. 5 hamburger patties. Wrap them in foil, stick them in the oven. If I don't want to flip them around and open it up, it usually takes 50 minutes to an hour at 425. Might have to move them around a little bit so one doesn't get more cooked than the other. If I have them laid out, it really only takes about 25 or 30 minutes, and I'll typically bake them from frozen at about 450, but it depends on how hot your oven runs. And once I have that, right, I'm still in ketosis. I'm still glycogen, carbohydrate depleting. I'm just giving my body fuel that it's going to rapidly go through for energy. It's not going to add or store any more fat than I typically would have once I reach my base needs. So something that I always like to remind people when they are doing a protein fast and when they're getting into that is your body is very aware of how many calories it needs on a particular day. And you use that very simple equation. People try to make this way more complex than it is, but get used to it, get good at it, and do it for a while. Do it all the time, just like label reading, right? Always look at those labels, always read those labels. But you take 0.45 times your body weight in pounds. So if you have a goal weight, you're going to use 5 or 10 pounds lighter than you are. If you're trying to put a little bit of weight on, right, which is perfectly fine, you can do that. I'm pretty sure you could do that with carnivore. I think you can put weight on with carnivore. I think that it's a very slow process of high quality muscle mass, but I think you definitely could put muscle mass on with carnivore. I have never gained any weight doing carnivore, when in fact, like what I did last night, because I loaded with those 5 hamburger patties, taking in 1700 calories. Yeah, that's how much that was, and going to sleep on that, right? So I effectively had enough for my REE for that one day, right? And that's why I stretched it out so that I had 3 full days, right? 3 full days of all liquid protein fasting. And that was after doing 35 days of carbohydrate depletion, ketosis, carnivore. And now I haven't gone off of it, but I feel like I went off of it. My body feels satiated. It feels like it had a break. And never, not once, did I come out of ketosis or flitting in and out of gluconeogenesis, right? So I'm utilizing gluconeogenesis and ketosis, right? And very little rest. I keep moving and moving. I don't feel erratic or psychotic or any anxiety. I feel very relaxed. So my body, it took several months to ease into this, to be able to just walk continuously. And that's one of the symptoms of losing weight, getting lighter, getting stronger, is that your body, that's one of the symptoms that you could call fitness. Fitness is the ability to be able to do these things without stress, without overdoing it, right? So I'm not outside the spectrum of what I'm capable of, and therefore I'm just adding to the repertoire of my abilities as I start. You'll naturally start to push yourself. And that's when I say get training, gradual intensity training, is that's what gradual intensity continuous training is all about. Your body will start to prompt you once those hormones are up, once that body weight's down, right? Once that strength is up, you're naturally going to be able to do things longer, stronger, with more efficacy and more efficiency, and go harder. And you're just going to naturally want to do that. And that's when you, just like with get training in the beginning, you back off and you save a few, right? You keep a few in the barrel, as I like to say. You keep a few reps, you keep a few sets. You never overly push it. Well, the same holds true when you just start to feel like you're in balance and you have that vitality and strength. You want more. You'll push yourself more. And then it's perfectly fine to push yourself a little harder. When you wake up that next day, like I did today, having worked the same muscle groups for 3 days in a row, you go back to it and you're like, okay, I'm sore. So I'll be training tonight, and the walking really helps with your recovery, right? Along with the protein. You have this nitrogen, muscle nitrogen rich environment where autophagy and growth is occurring. And then you're giving the mechanism, right? You're metabolizing, you're moving, you're peeing, you're drinking water, you're eating, but you're eating foods that your body is utilizing every scrap, every constituent, right? And you feel great. I feel amazing. And so with the protein fasting, you do it according to how you feel. And the beauty is, the code, cracking the code is that when you come off of that all liquid whey protein fast, whether it was a day, 3 days, maybe you made it 4 days or 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. There's times where I would just forget to eat, and I would be so cued in with carrying my pre-made, pre-mixed protein around with me. I would drive limos back in the day, and I would pre-make 10, sometimes 12 scoops. I probably don't go through that in an entire week now. Something happened, a shift happened where my muscle nitrogen levels, I'm able to maintain that, right? With less protein ingestion. I don't have to take in the whey protein all the time like I used to. Like I have been averaging about 2 scoops every day. And again, I just keep going back to it. In about 5 minutes, I feel prompted already where my body needs those extra calories. And so I'm always keeping that 0.45 times my body weight in pounds. So that gives me around 70 calories per hour. So I know that a couple of chugs, I'm gonna wanna take in one scoop of that whey protein has 120 calories, okay? So if I took a quarter to a third of one scoop, which I would assess and say that that's one good solid chug, one or two chugs of that, for lack of a better colloquial, I'm getting in 30, 40 calories. So I'm approaching it as if I'm on a drip system and I'm sick in the hospital. And that's how I came up with this idea 20 years ago, is I realized that if I were to just keep focusing on the protein intake, right? But I didn't take so much that my body, with the blood would go into my stomach, that my body would have to treat it like a meal. What if I just take a little in at a time? What if I'm walking while I'm doing that? What if I'm training while I'm doing that? And you start to see how those specific amino acids, such as branch chains and carnitine, right? Arginine, how those go to work, ornithine or ornithine, how those go to work specifically when you create this anabolic agent, when you create an anabolic spark, when all of the constituents are there, all the minerals, all the vitamins, and then particularly you're getting that aid with your hormones, right? To where then you get this bolstering effect and your endocrine system is just keeping you going, right? Then it's like this finely tuned car. It's like a Porsche, just well maintained, humming down the road. The thing's 40 years old and nothing can stop it, you know? And it's at the perfect weight balance. And you start to kind of fashion and see yourself in such a way where you realize 1 pound over and you're going to feel the difference. But you have to get back to that optimal place. So if you were an athlete in high school, if you were an athlete in college, maybe it was recent, maybe you still are, maybe you're looking for a transition, right? So I'm going to be, again, documenting what I'm doing here as I go into these more performance-based training bouts, and I'm feeling awesome. Where most people drop off is they refuse to take in the carbohydrates. Way ahead of time, I already know that I'm gonna need at times to calculate that 0.45 times my body weight in pounds and look at the average energy expenditure that I'll need when I'm exercising. So I will carbo load, right? And I will exercise appropriate to that. And then as soon as I'm no longer requiring the extra fuel through glycogen load means, I'll be going right back. And they say that you can stay fat adapted when you're doing this. The more brown fat you have, the more conditioned you are, right? And the more energy specific your loads are, right? So I'll be documenting that and showing what kind of gain I got, what kind of loss I got, what my performance was about. And I'll be charting it exactly as needed, right? So anyway, I hope that I was able in a roundabout way to show you my approach, what's working for me, and this major hack, because it is a major hack, and that is the key takeaway, the key area has to do with, in specific, not carbo loading, but taking in carnivore for your carbo load. And I had been kind of playing around with this and thinking, oh, that's never gonna work, you know? But once you have beef or pork, or I would say even lamb, you know, lamb might work, where you've got a full spectrum, dense, rich, fatty, right? Supply of meat, right? You can start to count those calories out. And even with what I ate yesterday, you know, I wanted to get my REE in, and I did. My resting energy expenditure is at about 1,700. So I probably took in between 1,600 and 1,800 in that meal. I put a little mayonnaise on the side, a little mustard. That's the way I like it, weird. Sometimes I might use a little cheese to bolster it up a little bit, get more calcium in. And the way that you can bolster your calcium is I save these eggshells, right? And now I have a huge bag of crushed These are all crushed eggshells, right? And I'm going to be crushing those even more and baking them, and then I will use that as a powder so that I can get high bioavailable calcium as I'm going into more muscle contraction, more muscle movements, right? Because you do have the case of the missing milk. And so one way that you can replace that milk, especially, you know, just to be able to drink a glass of milk or feel like you're drinking the milk and still get all those nutrients and more, is you have your whey protein and you have your heavy cream. And you can add those together. Like I've said in the past, I love making custard. I've been focusing more on fat burn these days, so I'm doing a lot of protein fasting. I will only use the protein fasting as a tool when I need to burn off that fat and get lean. Otherwise, once you're on the other side, it becomes a full-time job and an area of total focus to be able to keep yourself from losing muscle mass when you're extremely lean. So when you're humming a 3 to 5% body fat, you have an event coming up, you have to make sure that the energy's got to come from somewhere, and you don't want to go catabolic, right? Catabolic foods are a different story, right? So like lean chicken or whey protein, right? They don't yield so much energy, but once you get into gluconeogenesis, that switches it up a little bit, right? Your body starts to more effectively and efficiently use amino acids during times when your stomach lining's rubbing together and the ghrelin is being produced, right? So we want to stay in that autophagy response. We want to keep growing. We want to keep bolstering our health. But once it comes down to that fine line, that's where the carnivore will save your ass every single time. Because you can eat to your heart's content, and you really can. And that's a very good descriptor, a very good term for that, your heart's content. Because you will find that it's not only beneficial for your heart health, has been completely blatantly lied about in the past, but taking in the saturated fat, taking in those omegas, and getting a full spectrum of different fatty acids is highly efficacious and rewarding, because you start to see and feel the power of fat. And then you can start adding in MCT oils, EVOO, olive oil, and start to really see how these specific and individual oils can go to work for themselves when you are exercising. So you can start to take MCT oils, medium chain triglycerides from the coconuts, right? You can start to take that around times that you're exercising, you have intense exercise bouts, and you want to replace and repair and build, right? So those MCTs are really good for that, right? For that express purposes. When you're taking the collagen in, you might want to take those EVOOs around that same time, right? When you have a little bit more cortical steroid production, when you're relaxing, right? So it's more of a Mediterranean diet focus, right? So learning the gear shifting, learning when to eat certain things, and then realizing that your body naturally wants to do this, right? And I do believe that there's a time where Elsa and Haas, staying healthy with the seasons, staying healthy with nutrition, come into play. Specifically with like cruciferous vegetables, Himalayan sprouts, avocados, blackstrap molasses, possibly things of this nature that are very seasonal, but they are based around specific gear shifting meals and foods that will allow you to bolster your health when you are training for specific performance purposes. So when you're exercising really intensely, it's an excuse to be able to bolster and to build, right? With what I call the clay pot cooking. And I will be going back to clay pot cooking once I'm in that place where I have burned off all the fat. I'm in a performance oriented goal set. I'm counting that 0.45 times my body weight in pounds. I'm counting those calories. I'm realizing that there's the thermic effect of food, and from the high fiber sources, if I want to eat more, I want to eat less. It really is contingent upon how much fiber and how much I'm focusing on those thermic foods or catabolic foods where they don't yield any actual real energy, but they do. All food does, and all food can be used. I mean, your body is very efficient at that. So that's what this is all about, is the gear shifting approach, and you taming the beast. That's what the Rogue Beast Warrior is all about. You taming the beast, you going off script, and you processing on a whole higher level that we don't get into here, but on other channels I do. And that is, you become that spiritual center, if you will, for lack of a better. You become that warrior, and you are the master of the beast. You're the master of your own domain. Rogue Beast Warrior out. Long-winded talk, lots of walking, information. Feel free to go back and review, but everything that I talked about here, I've posted information up about in the past, and I will be posting up ever more information. The same critical things over and over again have to be said. And the new innovations that are coming out every day in this exciting time that we live in now. Rogue Beast Warrior.